Grounding was a major part of this build. For the tower, I used 3 bonded ground rods per leg, with each tower leg having its own set of 3 bonded ground rods. And the first rod of each leg was bonded to all of the other legs. That created a bonded grounding system around the complete tower instead of 3 isolated grounds acting independently. From there, the entire shack, including the tower, was bonded back to the UFOR ground of the home. That part is very important. A grounding system should not just be a bunch of islands. Instead, the tower, the shack, and the house all needed to be grounded and bonded together, so everything rises and falls together electrically during a surge event. Grounding is just not about lightning protection. It's also about static buildup, equipment protection, RF behavior, and reducing the chances of dangerous voltages across various systems. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should copy my exact setup, but grounding depends quite a bit on your soil conditions, your home, your electrical system, more importantly, your local code and your tower layout. But what I will say is this: do not treat grounding as optional. If you're putting a tower in the air, plan on grounding your system from the very beginning, tying it to every piece of gear, every cable. Everything should be grounded to the system. From your rotator to your coax to your tuners to your power supplies and of course your radios. Grounding everything is not optional and it shall be done. The original antenna stack for this tower included a Cushcraft A4S, which was a 10, 15, and 20 meter antenna, a D40 dipole for 40 meters, and a Cushcraft 6 meter, 2 meter for 40 antenna. This gave me a very solid starting point. The A4S covered all the major HF bands with a compact trapped tribander design. The D40 gave me a 40 meter capability, and the Cushcraft 6 meter antenna gave me access to the magic band for weak signal work, openings, and of course contesting. For a while that setup worked great and got me on the air. It was a very practical stack and it gave me a lot of operating capability from a residential tower. But over time, I started seeing the limitations of what I had initially put up in the air. One of the problems that I had with the A4S was that one of the elements was rotating with wind movement. In my opinion, it came down to flaws in the Cushcraft design and the way the antenna elements were secured. When the antenna elements rotated, the antenna not only does not stay mechanically or electrically consistent, what started out as a tuned antenna slowly became something else after wind, weather, vibrations, and time do their work. So after a few years, that became very frustrating because when the antenna is up on the tower, every small mechanical issue becomes a much bigger job. You're just not walking over to it and adjusting it at chest height. No, you are absolutely lowering antennas. You're climbing the tower. You're troubleshooting and you're planning all of the work around a day just for something that should have stayed put in the first place. When you build a tower, you eventually learn that the best antenna is not always the one with the flashiest brochure. It's the one that performs well, survives the weather, and does not consistently make you climb the tower. So for that reason, one of the biggest antenna changes I made was moving from a Cushcraft A4S to an OptiBeam OB10-5M. That OptiBeam gave me a better coverage, including work bands, better construction, and of course, a more serious antenna system for DX and contesting. It was not just an upgrade in performance, it was an upgrade in confidence. Another antenna that served me well was the Cushcraft D40 dipole. It did exactly what I needed it to do. It got me on air on 40 meters. I made a ton of contacts with it. And it's exactly what I needed it to do for a very long time. But as I was improving the station, I wanted a 40 meter antenna to match the rest of the tower system. That's why I moved to an Innovative antenna, DXE140. The big reason also was efficiency, and of course the mechanical quality of the antenna was better with this antenna. The DXE140 is a more serious 40 meter rotatable dipole. It fits better with the direction I took with the station. A stronger tower, a better rotator, better thrust bearing, and of course better coax with LMR 400, and a more reliable antenna. The D40, not only was it a good antenna, but the DXC40 gave me more confidence for long-term use, especially with the wind, the weather of monsoons here in Tucson. And also, it gave me a very serious operating antenna for 40 meters. It also fit my goal of moving away from compromised antennas, but moved me towards antennas that were better built, cleaner electrically, and more efficient on the bands that I absolutely do care about. So the D40 absolutely served its purpose, but the DXC140 was absolutely the right upgrade for the station. For 6 meters, I originally had the Cushcraft 6 meter A627-013S antenna on the tower. Like the other Cushcraft antennas that got me on the air, and it absolutely did the job. But as I upgraded the rest of the station, I started looking at the tower as a whole system. That's why I moved to a 6 meter 4-element antenna. The 4 elements of the antenna gave me a better balance for this tower. It gives me a very solid 6 meter performance for weak signal work, openings, and of course contesting. But it does that with much less mechanical burden on the mast, the rotator, and of course the thrust bearing in the tower. On 6 meters, height matter, pattern of the antenna, and reliability matter quite a lot. I would rather have an antenna that is mechanically solid, properly matched to the tower, and ready when the band opens than push the system too hard, chasing a little more gain on paper. So for me, raising all the antennas in the air was one of the most exciting parts of this project. Finally, we're getting some steel in the air. But it's also one of the most important parts where you have to slow down and respect the process. Every antenna has to be assembled correctly on the ground. Hardware needs to be tightened to the correct levels. Elements need to be measured. Feed points need to be checked. Antennas need to be tuned. Coax needs to be routed in a way that gives the rotator enough loop to turn without binding. And of course, once the antennas go up, spacing matters, weight matters, wind load matters, rotator capability matters. It's very easy to look up at the tower and think, can I fit one more antenna up there? But the tower does not care what you want. The engineering matters. It's more than what the wish list is. For my build, the antenna choices had to stay within the approved height, work with the tower as well as the mast, and had to fit with what the system was designed to handle. We're talking about one of the most important parts of my tower system, and that's what people never really think about until it fails. That is the antenna rotator. In my case, I upgraded from a Yaesu G800 DXA to a Yaesu 2800 DXA. Now, let me be very clear. The G800 is not a bad rotator. It's a solid medium duty cycle unit for the right antenna system. It works absolutely just fine. But as my tower project evolved, I started looking at all of the antennas. The more wind load, the stronger the mast, and also, of course, I wanted long-term reliability. I realized I wanted more rotator than what the G800 could comfortably provide. The 2800 is Yaesu's heavy-duty deluxe rotator. It has a 450-degree rotation angle like the 800, which gives you overlap past north or south, depending on how you set up the rotator. That's useful when you're chasing DX and you do not want to spin that antenna all the way around just to move a few degrees. It also has a preset control, variable speed, also has auto slow start and auto slow stop. That last part absolutely matters. When you're tuning a stack of all the antennas on a very tall mast, you do not want the system jerking to a stop or slamming to a start or vice versa. All that shock gets transferred into the mast. It also gets transferred into the antennas, the tower, the rotator gears. So the big reason why I went with the 2800 was the margin that it provided. That was one of the lessons that I learned while building this tower was you can't size a rotator by asking, will it turn? You have to ask, will it survive? Will it break? And will it still be reliable years from now? Another part of the tower system that I upgraded was the thrust bearing. It originally had a Roan TB3 at the top of the tower, and for a while it did the job, but during maintenance we actually found that thrust bearing actually failed. That was one of the moments where you realize tower maintenance is not optional. Things can look fine from the ground, but once you inspect the system up close, you find the weak points. Because of that, I moved from a Roan TB3 to a DX Engineering TB3000 thrust bearing. The TB3000 is a much heavier duty thrust bearing, and it better matches the rest of the upgraded tower system, especially with a stronger mass of a chromoly mast, a larger rotator, and the heavier antenna stack. Just like the move from the 800 to the G2800, this upgrade was about removing weak links. For coax, I decided to run LMR 400 Ultra Flex to all of my antennas. The reason was pretty simple. I wanted a good balance between low loss, durability, and flexibility. With a tower like this, especially running HF in 6 meters, coax loss does matter. I did not want to spend all this time building a strong tower, upgrading the rotator, improving the antenna stack, only then to lose unnecessary signal in cheap or undersized coax. LMR 400 gives me solid performance, especially on 6 meters where feedline loss starts to become more noticeable. The Ultra Flex version makes a lot of sense on a rotating tower system because it's easier to route, it's easier to work with, and better suited for the rotator loop than the standard stiff coax. That flexibility matters when the antennas are turning back and forth in the wind and through full rotation range of the entire tower. I wanted coax that would handle the most movement without putting extra stress on the connectors, feed points, or even the tower hardware. So for me, LMR 400 Ultra Flex was the best compromise. It provided low loss, great shielding, great power handling, and flexible enough to make the installation cleaner and more reliable.